I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're delighted to introduce you to a very talented author. His name is James Greene. He has written a book called The Illusionist and the Goblin Princess. His novel delves into the life of Tenn Peller, an illusionist struggling with the burden of being misunderstood and labeled as a trickster. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below this interview. James, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
You're welcome.
Let's give the folks at home the big picture. Tell them what the story is all about.
Well, okay, so the story begins with Tenn Peller. He just got kicked out of another party for a job, and but he was still able to get paid because he made them sign a contract that forced them to pay via magic and punish them via magic, obviously. And he finally managed to give one last message to someone he was looking for the last few years, but due to a bit of a misunderstanding, everyone now sees him as a freak as well as a trickster. I won't go into the details here.
Yeah.
So in order to move on, he decides to take on a solo job to go and find some goblins. But he meets someone who changes the course of his life. Her name is Izzy, and she looks like a goblin about the size of an 18-year-old girl. And so she ends up going with Tenn, and they have an adventure that causes Tenn to see that not everyone judges people the moment they meet them. And there are some people who have a lot more empathy than others.
So those are great morals, great characteristics to have the audience understand and explore such things as identity, acceptance, and the transformative power of relationships as well. So I think that's what I liked best about your book. I love the name Tenn Peller. Obviously, it's a takeoff of Penn and Teller, the famous illusionists. Why did you decide to give kind of a hat tip to Penn and Teller?
Well, originally I just used it as a placeholder name, but then I found a phrase that was very similar to the name, and I thought, yeah, I might as well keep it. Since you read the book, you probably saw that phrase later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't spoil it here for the readers at home.
Exactly. We want to save some good stuff for the folks at home. We just want to give them the big picture. What was it like writing this book for you? Did you enjoy it? Did it take you a long time? Where did the idea for the story come from in the first place?
Oh, well, the story idea. Okay, so way back then, I was eventually it was because I didn't have anyone to play Dungeons and Dragons with. But while I was writing the book, a certain incident happened. There was this thing with the residential schools in British Columbia. You heard about that?
No.
Oh, well, there are these things called residential schools. They were a long time ago, the Catholic Church forced the indigenous people of Canada into these schools in order to turn them into Christians. And the conditions in these schools were absolutely terrible. And basically, these kids were trying to turn these kids into zombies. But they found that underneath one of these residential schools was a huge, massive graveyard of children's bones. It was awful. And the Catholic Church later apologized to the First Nations of Canada for this terrible tragedy. But the point is, while I was writing the book, I saw a petition online that says that they wanted to punish the Christians who live today by increasing the taxes on the church or something like that. It was a long time ago. I don't remember the specifics. And at the time, I thought, what? Yeah, I know what happened was terrible and it's completely awful. But the people living today didn't have anything to do with that. So I decided to add a part of that into the book, in a later part of the book.
Mm.
That yeah, there are in the book there are some goblins who do terrible things and are real monsters, but most goblins aren't really like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Most are just misunderstood really by their appearance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And also, goblins have their own goblin way of behaving. That well, I mean, you see plenty of jokes about the very interesting ways goblins behave on the internet.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are lots of things. Like for example, each goblin colony in the book, well, in the world of the book, has a different way of naming their kids. Like the main goblin girl, Izzy, her colony names their kids after the first sound they make when they're born, repeated once.
Mhm.
And there's another one that names their kids after the hobby that their mother was into at the time of their birth.
Mhm.
Those are just examples, though. Uh, if this book becomes popular enough, the next book will probably have a goblin whose name is Peanut Butter Pancake. I'll let you guess where that name comes from.
I'm not sure. Peanut butter pancake. Where does that come from?
Oh, hmm,
Almost sounds like something Elvis Presley would eat because he liked peanut butter and bananas and all that kind of stuff.
huh. Well, maybe I haven't worked out all the details yet, but I'll be
Are
working
you
on the next book when I have a little more time after all this getting this book in multiple people's hands is done.
have you envisioned this book perhaps as a movie or TV series?
Mm, well, personally, I think fantasy stories would work better as a TV series because
Mm.
they it can allow the to have more details from the original book. I mean, not to say that fantasy movies based on a books aren't bad, but I think it would work better as a TV series.
Yeah, I
As
think
you
it
know,
gives
as
them
long
more
as
time to develop things, right?
right.
Yeah, yeah. What are your influences? You mentioned you liked gaming a little bit before, Dungeons and Dragons. Is this book influenced a little bit by gaming? Is it influenced by movies you might have enjoyed growing up?
Oh, well, yeah, it's not so much growing up. It's I really only got into Dungeons and Dragons after I started attending college, but yeah, it's influenced by a lot of things really.
Mhm.
Hmm, like
Like The Hobbit, it
for
almost sounds a little
example,
bit like The Hobbit, right?
oh, well, I have started reading The Hobbit, but I'm not finished with it yet. It's
Yeah.
more based on the the light novels from Japan, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But those are probably based on The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings originally.
Exactly, exactly. Folklore and legend, that's for sure.
Oh
Well,
yeah, and folklore especially.
mm,
Like for example, there are four different kinds of goblins in the world of this book. There
mhm.
are scamps, brownies, gremlins, and boggarts, which are the bad goblins.
Gotcha, gotcha. Wonderful. What was it like writing this book? Did it take you a while? How long did it take you to write it?
Oh well, it hmm. Well, I'm not entirely sure exactly when I started writing it, except that around that time I told you about before. But
Mhm.
uh, I think I first started getting into writing it about 2 or 3 years ago. But I think it only took a year to write, and then I got distracted by school and stuff. But I think the next book won't be take as long because I'll be focused more on it.
Have you started writing it yet, or have you started thinking
Oh,
it through a
not
little
yet.
bit?
I have the idea for it. I just got to plan it
Gotcha.
out.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, James Greene has written a wonderful book. It is called The Illusionist and the Goblin Princess. The book dives deep into the life of Tenn Peller. He's an illusionist struggling with the burden of being misunderstood, and people call him some bad names like a trickster. The book unfolds as the Tenn encounters a unique individual who introduces a new form of chaos into his life, challenging him to find a place in a world that often rejects those who are different. The story is a compelling exploration of identity, acceptance, and the transformative power of unexpected relationships. James, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.